Hello and welcome to CEO Talk. I am Kalpana Singhal, Editor-in-Chief Tech Plus Media, and we have Shayak Mazumder, CEO and co-founder Unimart as our guest today. Unimart is a vertically integrated e-commerce solution empowering thousands of SMEs and mid-market customers in emerging markets to seamlessly streamline their operations through a single purposefully developed platform. A very warm welcome to you, Shayak.
Thank you very much, Kalpana. It's a pleasure.
Same here. So, Shayak, what are the changes you see in the e-commerce industry trends with the ongoing pandemic over the last 2 years?
Okay. So some of the changes were already happening. Okay. We actually saw a tremendous amount of digitization even pre-pandemic. The only difference that I'd say is pre-pandemic, people used to take technology for granted in the sense that for when you looked at the strategy of most companies, people would place finance the number one problem statement, which as it should be. Finance should be the number one business statement in most cases. And then it would follow, marketing would be following that, operations would be following that, and technology would typically come last. Okay. This thing has been turned on its head. Now, finance still is number one, but marketing is not number two anymore. So today we are seeing technology become the number two problem statement for almost every one of these companies that we're interacting with. The pandemic hit, and 98% of the business that was driven through your distribution channels broke down completely. So all these brands at that time were scrambling. I saw major brands I will not name send out paper chits to customers. You would not imagine in the digital world of WhatsApp, they were sending paper chits to collect orders. They were literally doing Excel sheets to collect orders. So this is what we typically saw during the pandemic, so the brands suddenly realized that they had been ignoring technology. See, India is about close to 5 years behind the curve, okay, from the rest of the world. And when I say rest of the world, I don't mean Kenya or Nigeria. I mean the advanced US, China kind of, the developed world, US, China kind of a situation. So we're about 5 years behind that, roughly, when it comes to digital adoption in commerce. Not so much with digital adoption in payment technologies. When it comes to digital adoption in payment technologies, India is number one actually in the world. Okay, so this is something which drove a lot of innovation during COVID, and we saw a lot of these brands suddenly starting to become fully digital. Today, when we talk to these brands, all they're saying is, we will still sell distribution, but we want an omni-channel play. We want everything connected and we want a control tower. So that's kind of the change that we have seen.
So what is the difference like now? What exactly they have done, which is different from what they were doing earlier?
So earlier, what they would do in a very practical, physical way is they would have their catalog, they would send it out to the distributor. The distributors would then send it out to the stores. And so they had partnerships with different stores, different distributors. And that is what used to drive, on an average in India, 95% of the sales. Okay. Certain categories like fashion used to be a little less. So fashion, about 8-9% used to be e-commerce. Certain categories like beauty, maybe only 1 or 2% used to be e-commerce. Okay. But what we've seen, there has been a massive transition of customer behavior during the COVID period, right? We all know that. So this is where the world is headed. And so what has happened? 3 things have happened. 1, technology has innovated, customer cohorts have changed, and customer behavior has changed. Okay. So as a result of this, brands have evolved. So what brands today are doing is they're saying, okay, today, maybe 10-15% of my revenues are coming from e-commerce. That is okay. I'm going to not see this fast growth that I saw during COVID, because during COVID, the growth was very fast. It was growing like crazy. So I'm not going to see that growth anymore. The growth rate will slow down slightly, but e-commerce by 2025, 2026 will undoubtedly account for 35 to 52% of my total revenues, which is where it is slated to go. So if today, more than 1/3 of your revenues are going to come from e-commerce, are you going to get stuck to just one channel like Flipkart or Amazon? Are you going to create your own web store? Are you going to go and sell on social commerce and P2P commerce? Today, video commerce is taking up. So who's going to do video commerce for you? Who's going to sit on the video and sell your product? Are you going to convert your stores into dark stores? So the concept of dark stores is so exciting because so many stores shut down, but because the demand did not reduce actually. It is just that footfall in stores shut down. So a lot of these brands actually shut down stores and made them dark stores. meaning that they became distribution centers for local distribution. So if I were to categorize a change, I would say change has happened in 3 areas: customer behavior, technology, and supply chain. Okay. So let's take a look at each one of them. Because customer behavior has changed, brands today have started becoming omni-channel. Okay. So what that means is they have started thinking, I'm going to sell on Amazon. I'm also going to sell on Flipkart. My traditional sales were coming from a distributor. I'm going to ask my distributor to connect to my system. Earlier, I used to give my stuff to him and not worry कि वो किसको बेच रहा है. But now I'm worried कि वो किसको बेच रहा है and who's the end customer. If I don't know who's the end customer, I will have a problem because I won't be able to iterate fast enough. My competition will break me. And that's what's happening in the world of D2C commerce, right? D2C commerce is so much faster compared to the traditional commerce that their products are evolving on a weekly basis, not on a monthly basis or an annual basis. And traditional companies which are used to evolving products on an annual basis are getting left behind in the race. Okay. So they are telling the distributors, dude, you come on my system. I want to see the end customer data. So see what's happening across all channels. Now it's all connected to one single database. So your orders data, your inventory data, your catalog data, all connected. So as a merchant, you now want that. That's the first change, customer behavioral change. The second change is technology change. Earlier, people were like, what am I going to do with AI? I've got an MBA who knows how to write my description better. What am I going to do with the AI? Or I've got an MBA who will tell me what my product should sell where. Today, that is not being said ever again. Nobody is saying that. Instead, every second brand that I'm talking to, I was giving a lecture in South India with a group of retailers. And here's an interesting story. One of the group of retailers started debating with me on AI models, not the usage of AI, literally the model of deep learning that should be used and why it should be used. And it was mind blowing for me. Like, I could not imagine a traditional retailer coming and not just understanding the impact of AI, being able to sit with me on the table and debate whether a CNN or an RNN model is better for an image analysis.
That's
That
great.
is the level to which they have educated themselves. And the last one is supply chain. This is the most exciting one. Today, we're talking about 8-10 minute deliveries in tier 1 and about 1 hour deliveries in tier 2. Okay. Can you imagine this pre-COVID? Have you ever heard of this pre-COVID? Do you know why this happened during COVID? Because all the stores became dark stores. So now the local store which was there is connected to the central omni-channel system. When you get an order, they know your location and they'll ship it out from the local store. That's why you get a 10-minute delivery.
So basically,
right?
the delivery is happening through the brand itself now. That's what you mean to say?
No, not necessarily. There are delivery fulfillment partners who are coming up, who are massively changing the ecosystem as well. And the brands are today leveraging those partner networks, those fulfillment networks, as well as their own delivery networks. Like I was talking to the CEO of one of the biggest retailers in India, but they were traditionally focused on implementing major hypermarkets in different parts of the city. During COVID, people came a lot lesser. So what they did was they did community engagement in the area. Okay. So community engagement, you would not imagine a hypermarket becoming a community center, but a hypermarket became a community center in the sense that everything that the community needed was connected around the hypermarket. So now they are building their social models around it. So today, your local mall or your local hypermarket knows when your birthday is coming up, knows when your son's birthday is coming up, informs the community, sends you a gift, arranges an event around that. Can you imagine your hypermarket doing that and changing? That's where the world is heading. And that's interesting, right?
That's
because
interesting.
that's what's happening. That is how retailers are evolving, not the brands. Retailers are evolving there because retailers have realized that community engagement is the only way to survive in this fractured world where people are buying from God knows how many channels, and if they have to stay relevant as a channel, they will have to do community because they do still own the community, right? They're the biggest retail player in that community.
Yeah.
But today, Flipkart and Amazon doing half-an-hour deliveries, people won't go to the shop anymore. People will order from home. So if they have to stay relevant, community engagement is the only way to do that.
Absolutely. The COVID-19 has accelerated this shift to online shopping, and the shift persists across categories as consumers continue to keep their out-of-home engagement low to curb the spread of the virus. So definitely, I mean, I think traditional businesses now are responding to this phenomena and they're
Yeah.
upgrading themselves. So while most of the businesses are up for transforming their business model and digital footprint, many of them face challenge in seamless execution and overall success. So what are the
Mhm.
best practices you would suggest to curb these challenges?
So, I mean, for majority of these businesses, change management is the biggest struggle, right? I'm advising a consultancy startup that advises small to medium-sized businesses on change management and digital transformation, right? So I'm one of their mentors. So through them, I see a lot of this data. I don't see a lot of this data in Unimart because we don't do so much of consultancy. The brands already know what they want when they come to us. We provide the technology part only. But when we look at the consultancy, as I'm advising one of those startups, one of the things that I see is these, for majority of them, it is about mindset management first, right? Because for 30 years or for maybe a couple of generations, they are used to doing business in a certain way. Making a complete transformation is learning how the kids play. Okay. You are relearning how the kids play at 40, 50 years of age. It's not easy as a mindset change. And the younger generation is faster. They're a lot faster. They know what they're doing and they're iterating a lot faster. They don't have the kind of prejudices, or they don't have the kind of risk appetite that you have. They have a lot higher risk appetite. So they're changing and iterating faster. And you see that, right? You see the evolution of digital commerce, and you see the evolution of D2C brands in India. Okay, so a lot of these brands, what I would recommend, or what I do recommend already, is to one, find a layer of management who understands technology. This is the first thing, because if technology is gibberish to you, it's going to be difficult to make the transformation in the first place, because you would not know how to differentiate A to B, right? You would not know how to differentiate one consultancy from the other. You would not know how to differentiate one platform from the other, right? And that's where you would get stuck. Okay. So this is where I recommend that get a layer of management who are conversant with technology, and you have to trust them for the recommendations they're making. Now, for majority of these businesses, it comes from within the family. The younger generation in those families do understand technology, and they are taking up the mantle now. I'm seeing it happen again and again and again in majority of the businesses I'm talking with. Either a second layer of management with top-notch MBAs are coming in, or the family youngsters are taking up the mantle for the technology. The only thing is, in certain businesses, they still don't have the full support from the senior management. That is where things tend to go wrong. Second thing that I always recommend is always start with supply chain. Why? Because that is the easiest to evolve. It is something tangible, you can see, and you can make the changes yourself. Marketing, AI, e-commerce, you can't see. You're doing on the basis of data. And for people who are doing technology for the first time, that is not easy. But supply chain is, right? You can see your warehouse, you can digitize it. You can see your supply chain partners, you can automate them. You can literally understand the rules on which it works. Okay. It's not so different from the physical world. So automate, digitize your supply chain transformation. That basically comes in four parts, right? The sourcing part, the warehousing part, the fulfillment part, and the shipping part, right? So if you have these four pieces streamlined together with the different channels on which you're selling, then it tends to work a lot faster. Okay. So that's the second thing I would recommend. And then, of course, the third thing that you should always do is channel optimization. So channel optimization means you're not going to get the same sales on every channel. And just because everybody's getting sales on Amazon, you're not necessarily going to see sales on Amazon. You could see sales on Amazon, or you could see sales on Flipkart, or you could see sales on Nykaa, or you could see sales on your own web store. When it comes to channel management, what I always recommend is own your customer. When you're selling on an e-commerce marketplace, you do not own your customer. Okay. What does that mean? It means that customer is going to come to Amazon to buy on Amazon. How many times when we buy on Amazon as consumers, do we really look at the brand? Unless the brand is something that is already significantly well known, we don't, right? The only thing we're concerned about is the ones that Amazon is showing us on page one, and whether the price and the features fit us. Okay. This is what most consumers do. So if you're going to sell on Amazon, remember your brand is not going to become, you're not going to get brand loyalty from customers. So what you have to do over time is drive those customers to your own channels, your own web store, your own retail store. right? So that is something you have to build a relationship with the customer. This is critical. So you can do that even through Amazon, through networking, through communication, right? So do that, finish that piece, drive that customer to your own channel. Okay. And then the last piece I would say is marketing. And yet, to be very honest, 100% of the brands that I've spoken with start with marketing. It is, in my opinion, the wrong thing to do, because unless you've figured out supply chain and channels, if you go to marketing, you will spend a lot of money but not see an equivalent result and think e-commerce is useless, and it doesn't work. E-commerce is not useless. It is the right sequence not being followed. The supply chain not being optimized means your costs are too high and you can't fulfill on time. The channels not being fulfilled means your customers are not finding you where they want to find you. Only after that you should do marketing optimization. So this is how I would recommend.
So, how does Unimart add value to the digital journey of businesses and enhancing their overall customer experience?
We have covered 30 plus shipping partners, and we've gone there and we've negotiated 50% or lower rack rates, which means that the shipping rates you would go directly, our rates are about 50% lower. We've also gone and identified the right warehousing partners across the globe and integrated them into the system. So now you can send your inventory to warehouses in different parts of the world and let them fulfill your orders. We have collected data from around the world, built artificial intelligence models that will tell you how much sales you'll get, what your price should be, optimize your image automatically, write your description automatically for every different geography separately. We are building these AI tools which are incredibly powerful and paired with that marketing automation tools. So now the merchant does not need to go to a dozen different software trying to figure out what works and how it works. That's Unimod.
Okay, so what is your go-to-market strategy?
So today, I think there are roughly about 5,000 to 6,000 merchants in India who have a decent amount of e-commerce GMV, and those are the merchants who fall within our ideal customer profile. So those are the merchants we target. So what we do is we do some amount of social marketing, content marketing. We also do, so when you say content, content basically refers to thought leadership, articles, blogs. We do some amount of PR media, like I'm speaking to you right now. That's a great opportunity for us. So we have a lot of these kind of opportunities. So this is channel number one. Channel number two is we do a lot of account-based marketing. So we know these accounts, we know the people in those accounts, and we kind of know what problem statements they're facing. So we connect with them on a one-to-one basis on LinkedIn, on email, etc. And we connect with them and we explain to them how we can solve for that problem. And other than that, we also have some amount of network effects that come into play when merchants recommend us to other merchants, right? So these are basically the three main ways how we are going to market. We don't do a lot of digital marketing. The reason being, in our space, it's a highly concentrated cohort, right? So in digital marketing, when you have a very large cohort, like millions of people, and you're targeting them using digital, it works. But when you have 5,000 companies, digital marketing does not work because it is not targeted enough. That is when you have to go for targeted content and targeted account-based marketing.
Yeah. So how are you leveraging AI and new age technologies in offering support, insights, logistics, and supply chain to your customers?
So today, the impact of AI or artificial intelligence in e-commerce is basically felt in three main ways, okay? The first is operations, the second is supply chain, and the third is marketing. Because we are not the channel of sale, that part is left to Amazon as to how to use AI to get more customers. We don't do that, but what we do is merchant facing. So we have a few different artificial intelligence applications. The most impactful of that is our AI cataloging module. What that does is, imagine today you have this product, okay? Now you have not written the catalog yet. What can you do? You can take a photo, upload it into a system, write a few words about it in the title. The system will then take that photo, understand it, take the keywords from the title, understand what you're trying to do, create your own cohort of competition in every channel. Since we have the data, we know who's your competition on each channel. So first thing is identify the category, okay? Second is identify your cohort of competition. And on that, we can then tell you what your price should be, what your attribute should be, how much sales you'll get. So we do the whole prediction directly using our system then, okay? So That's the first part of it, which is basically your revenue driver, or I call it the organic revenue driver. The second is marketing automation. So we have our own marketing automation solutions using which you can optimize the messaging and the marketing that you do on multiple channels like Google, Facebook, Amazon, etc. Right? So we are integrated with those channels, our platform. So you can basically put a budget, and the system will tell you how much money you have to spend to get what kind of results. So that is called inorganic revenue generation. So that's also something we can do. Lastly, we have a little bit of AI built into the supply chain. So if you're selling internationally, it's important for you to know which items will sell where. Based on that, where you should localize which product, which shipping partner or fulfillment partner you should use to ship that and fulfill that. So that kind of distribution and planning and prediction is done to a certain extent by our AI. So we use AI for operations, supply chain and shipping, and marketing.
Right. So now, like all of us know, Facebook and Microsoft are actually talking about metaverse. So going forward, how you will, whether you will also be going adopting metaverse, or how it would be like.
I assume or I presume that it's a major social experiment that is going on today. And I am eagerly awaiting to see the results of this social experiment. What this experiment is saying, and by the same statement was said 10 years ago, and it didn't prove true then because the technology was ahead of the curve. But essentially what they're saying is that we are going to live a parallel life, a mirror life. Okay. So one life in the physical world and one life in the virtual world. Now that we've understood the basics, does it mean that all of us will immediately shift to the virtual world? I believe no. And I might be a pessimist here, although I'm a technology fan and I'm one of the first early adopters of most technology. I definitely don't think India is ready for a virtual world yet. Even the more advanced people in tier one cities probably aren't there yet because the transition to e-commerce has just finished. So a transition to the virtual world for fun and games, yes, but for purchase, I probably think it's still a very long shot. Now, that being said, should brands be there? I think so, because that is a new world of advertisement and opportunity. And it is a new world to stay on top of the customer's mind. If you're not there, somebody else will take the attention away from the customer. And then that will manifest itself in lower sales in the physical world. The virtual world has a very interesting predicament. So we know these trends, we're observing these trends. I just don't think that India is anywhere ready for those right
now. Yeah. So please talk about your recent business achievements in terms of business expansion, revenue growth, and customer acquisition.
So I think 2021 was a watershed year for us. We started the year horribly, like coming out of the pandemic, and we were expecting things to get better, and then Delta hit us very badly. There was tremendous attrition in the team. We lost a number of people in the operations and the technology teams, primarily because salaries went up a lot. Like India, you know what was happening. Salaries went up like 2-3 times. People were going mad. Attrition rates were crazy. Joining rates were close to zero. Like you could make 10 offers and expect maybe 2 people to join those days. It was really, really bad. And I mean, we observed and we changed quite a few things during that period. One is we changed the way we operate. We brought in a lot more senior people into the team. We automated our internal functions to the extent where now we can operate from anywhere without having to depend on anybody in particular, and can kind of work on a KPI basis or an OKR basis. These were things that were not there before. A lot of the management was manual, but today it is not so much. So all these things, and we're consistently working on it to make it even more automated, even more transparent, even more visible, right? Because the idea essentially is for employees to know, identify where they're doing, how, and how to improve without somebody having to come and tell them. I hate micromanaging people. I hate it when I have to go and tell someone that please do this or you are supposed to do this. That is not my job. You know what you are. I'm hiring you as a DRI, directly responsible individual. So this is the first big thing which I worked on. The second big thing which I worked on in the second half of 2021 was expanding the business to the Middle East and US, and also expanding our GMV and customer footprint. So our revenues went up 3x. Our GMV went up from about $5 million to about $17 million by the end of the year. So that itself was a phenomenal growth. So $17 million in GMV was a fairly large number to flow through the system. We got a fairly large number of large customers in the Middle East. We also got our company set up in US. I spent 4 months in the US last year, and I'm now back in the US. So I think in terms of achievement, I would point out 3 things. One, extremely senior people have joined the company. Some amazing people have joined the company. So we have like amazing people. We've got strong internal management practices and technology and transparency. But the most important thing is from the customer and the overall revenue growth, we've seen good thing. And I don't think that's organic, right? I think that, or I don't think that's magic. That happened because of the internal transformations we put in place.
Yeah. So last but not the least, if you can talk about your top 5 focus areas over the next 12 to 18 months.
So, I mean, I think the biggest focus area for me is right now revenues and partnerships. So that is the reason why I'm in the US. We're talking to several very, very large players, players of incredible supply chain, marketing, or payments companies. If I tell you the name, you'll be like, okay, that's number 1 in their industry. So those kind of companies, and we're evaluating. See, every single one of these companies are going through an internal evolution right now, thanks to COVID. They have understood that their footprint with their customers is dwindling. Newer companies are coming up and taking up that space. Although they are the number 1 in the world, they're not really going to remain number 1 if they continue doing what they do. So e-commerce enablement, enabling the merchant to make more money, allows them to make their product sticky with the merchant. Imagine today you are selling something and your bank or your payment partner came to you and helped you to make more money. You would stick with that payment partner. Same thing about the shipping part. Same thing about the marketing part. So they're all trying to create the ecosystem, and they're about 2 years behind the curve. That is why they're coming to us, because we have the ecosystem in place. We have the opportunity in place. And what they're trying to do with us is see how they can collaborate with us to take our platform, integrate it with their platform, and take it to the millions of customers globally that they have. So this is my number 1 focus and a massive opportunity. I mean, if this goes through, Unimart is the next Shopify. And that's kind of what we're trying to achieve. Other than this, I think people will continue to be my second priority. We will need to hire good people. We will need to maintain good people. We will need to improve on our people policies. Third is our product strategy. We have got amazing people in product. I think in product, our main focus is artificial intelligence now going forward. We want to ensure that our AI is what gives us the edge. We've proven that we can grow revenues 3 to 4 times in 1 year in 2021. So that is what we now want to do using the product strategy. That's my third most important thing. Other than that, I think the remaining 2 strategies are more to do with partnerships and my personal development. I feel that there's a whole lot that I need to learn here in the US. The industry is a lot more advanced. I'm speaking to some very, very interesting people on a regular basis. I'm trying to understand how I can position myself as one of the global thought leaders in the space. So those are some of the other objectives which I have. But overall, I would say the biggest objectives is revenue and partnerships in order to grow the business, the people strategy, and the product strategy.
Sure. Thank you so much, Shayak. Thanks a lot. I'm sure your insights will be of much importance to the audience.
For more updates from CXO TV, please like and subscribe to our channel.